Hello, my name is Alex Reilly. I'm Vice President and Agency Principal at Banktastic, where we help financial brands build love and loyalty. Today, I'd like to talk about one of my favorite topics, creativity, specifically brainstorming. And I know some of you out there might be cringing at that word brainstorming, but I'm here to tell you I have a few tips on how to make your brainstorming more fruitful, more productive, and a lot less painful. Part of the problem with how we approach brainstorming is we gather our team together, we sit around a table, and we think real hard. We think real hard about this problem we're trying to solve and how are we going to solve it. And too often somebody will throw out an idea and somebody else will say, well, that'll never work because X, Y, Z. And nothing kills creativity and that ability to think more freely than when that first idea gets shot down right away. We want to get to that solution too fast. And what happens is we kill the opportunity to really be innovative and think differently, because very often that first idea is not going to be your best idea. So here are 3 ways you can be more creative in your brainstorming and help your team also be more creative and more fruitful in your brainstorming. First, throw all your old habits out the window. Brainstorming and being creative is a lot like exercising. Nobody goes out for a jog and says, okay, I've done it once, now I'm ready for the marathon. No, they train over time. And your brain is the same way. Creativity is like a muscle. You need to give it you need to nourish it, give it opportunity, and give it time so that you can build on your creativity and not just expect out the gate for all these fantastic ideas just to float to the surface because you decided today I'm going to be creative. So some ways that you can just get that started and start building new ways of thinking is to drive a different way to work. If you are like most people, you take that same route every day, and maybe you don't even notice what you're passing along the way. When you take a new route, you have to think more, you have to pay attention more, you have to notice more. And that is also forcing your brain to think, because it's not on autopilot anymore. It has to notice, what are the traffic signals? Is somebody crossing the street? Oh, there's a pretty house. Oh, look at that dog. You're noticing things along the way, and your brain is a lot more active than it is when you're following a familiar pattern. Another way to get your brain thinking differently is to change the kind of music that you listen to. So if you have a particular style that you tend to tune into in your car or when you're at home, or even if you listen to music at work, try switching up to a new style. Give your brain something different to process and listen to, and that's another way to help rewire your brain and let it loosen up and go in different directions. If your brainstorming typically takes place sitting around a conference room table, get everybody to stand up. People tend to also go to the same seat every time. Switch up your seating, stand up, take a walk. Anything like that will help your brain think differently because your body is also moving differently. If you're usually the one taking notes, assign that task to somebody else. That allows you to focus on something different, and it gives them a different job. Anytime you can break old molds and create new ones, that's a way that your brain is also breaking out of old patterns, and it becomes more open and receptive to creating something new. Okay, 2. You've thrown out all your old habits and you've switched up your style. What's next? Next, you want to come up with ideas. You don't want to come up with the idea. You want to come up with lots and lots and lots and lots of ideas. Very too often when you kill an idea too early on, you don't give it a chance to flourish. And really, in brainstorming, when you're at this step 2, you should focus on quantity over quality. And why is that? It's a numbers game. You need to give yourself room to explore all kinds of avenues, and then you can go back and curate and decide, okay, we're going to see what will really work for our situation. But when you're just starting your brainstorming, You want to make sure people are free to explore and get as out there and to the edges of what you normally do as possible, because that's often where a really new, unique, and innovative solution will present itself. One way that we generate lots of ideas at Banktastic is we do an exercise we call paper passing. So let's say there's 8 of us sitting around the table. We'll get out 8 sheets of blank paper, and at the top we'll put different topics. And it might be, one paper might have a color, another might have a music or movie genre, another might be a location, like a vacation destination. You get the idea, just random topics on the top of each paper. And then let's say we're trying to come up with some way to celebrate, how are we going to celebrate birthdays for a client organization, or some way to recognize achievement. We'll come up with all kinds of ideas, just random ideas under each of these topics. And the idea is we go as fast as possible and we don't talk. We write, we pass, and then we look at the next piece of paper and it says purple. Well, we come up with something purple and write it. And we keep passing until our papers are filled with ideas. And we do this very rapidly. And so after about 10 or 15 minutes, we have 8 sheets of paper that are filled with 20 or 30 ideas. And then we read all the ideas aloud and we see what kind of gets the attention of the other people around the table. And by that time, we don't even know who wrote what idea. So nobody is too invested in anything. You're not like, oh gosh, I hope my idea makes it, or I hope I don't look stupid. Nobody has to worry about that because it's very anonymous. We've just generated a ton of ideas. And then we can look, okay, this one has merit. This one is interesting. What if we take this idea and cross it and merge it with this other idea? I think we have something interesting here. And that's why quantity is so important in step 2. Now we're ready for step 3. You've generated a ton of ideas with your paper passing, but maybe you're just not quite there yet, or you just want to inject something else into it to make it more interesting. An exercise that we do at Banktastic is, in order to step outside ourselves, we try to look for inspiration from other people or other types of people. And one thing I've done is I just to prepare for this video, I tore some pictures out of a magazine as an example. Here's a picture, it's an ad for our zoo, has some animals on it. Here's one of a man and a little child digging, so maybe it's a family, they're doing a garden, making a garden. And this one, we have this woman, she's actually celebrating her 100th or 101st birthday, but she's like a grandmother. So you're facing some kind of a problem, or you have some kind of challenge you're trying to solve, or you're trying to brainstorm on. You'd say, okay, this is how Alex typically approaches this, but let's step outside of what our own filter is, and let's look at how somebody else might approach that problem. So if we ask Grandma, how would she approach this problem? She's probably been through a lot, has a lot of wisdom. What do grandmas do? They take care of their families. They nurture. Maybe they bake cookies. They have sound advice. Maybe in your company or your institution, you need to set up some kind of a mentoring program, something similar to how if you go to Grandma, she's a safe space to ask questions to. Maybe you need something like that from a more professional standpoint. The point is, you think outside of your normal paradigm and look at it through a different lens. And so if we have this father and daughter, or you have this little child, maybe you look back at childhood and think about what are the lessons from kindergarten and preschool. What are some of those lessons about team building and cooperation that we've kind of forgotten about and gotten a bit jaded about in adulthood? We can learn some things and brainstorm from that point of view, write down a bunch of ideas and say, maybe there are some good nuggets here. There's something that we can use to build a program or a campaign for our institution, for either our customers or our employees. And this last example, this might be hard to understand. How does the animal kingdom, why is this just a waste of time? Well, no, if you think about how the animal kingdom works, you want to think completely differently. they have a different kind of hierarchy. They do have a top-down approach. And maybe there are some things in your institution where things are just too squishy, and you need a way for people to understand, okay, where am I in this animal kingdom of our company or our organization? Or maybe there are ways that they cooperate. I'm thinking about hippopotamus or hippopotami. They have symbiotic relationships with birds that come in and take insects and things that are harmful to the hippos and eat them right out of their mouths. These little birds come in, and maybe there's something, a nugget there to be learned, or something to create in terms of how does your institution benefit segments of your community. Maybe there's something there to apply to in your internal culture. Maybe there's something to apply to what you're doing for customers. When you think about what are we getting, what are we giving, and sort of that symbiotic relationship. Lots of different ways that you can get inspiration from a variety of places that are outside the walls of your institution. And there you have it. I hope you took away a few nuggets from this session today, that you can exercise your brain by changing up your habits so that you're not running on autopilot, and let your brain start to create new connections. Give yourself and your team the freedom to come up with a ton of ideas. You don't come up with the best idea right at the first. Come up with a lot. And then finally, step outside of yourself. Put yourself in somebody else's shoes, or take great ideas and cross-pollinate them to find something that's truly unique and truly innovative. Thanks so much for watching. You can subscribe or shoot us a message and let us know what kinds of topics you'd like to hear about in the future. Have a great day.